Taiwan plans to give nearly $1,000 to 500,000 homeowners to help with mortgage repayments. Paraguay's president receives a military salute on his state visit to Taiwan. Carrots in crisis in Taiwan as climate change takes its toll on the root vegetable. And Taiwan aims to make all its buses electric within 7 years, but operators say it's too much to do in too little time. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Taiwan plans to give over 500,000 homeowners nearly $1,000 each to help with mortgage repayments. Here's the cabinet spokesperson announcing the plan.
为了因应3年多来疫情及升息的压力，对中产家庭带来的冲击，政府将运用疫后特别条例规划房贷补贴方案。
The cabinet says low and middle-income homeowners are struggling with repayments because inflation has pushed up interest rates. It wants to help by giving 550,000 mortgage holders a one-off payment of $990. To qualify, households need to earn less than $40,000 a year and own just one home. There are also limits on the size of the mortgage. The scheme will need to be approved by the legislature before it can come into effect. For more on Taiwan's housing crisis, our reporter Stash Butler spoke to Ping Li, head of research at CBRE Taiwan.
What's the state of Taiwan's housing market right now? I mean, how much does it cost for, let's say, an ordinary middle-class person living in Taipei to buy a house?
If we take a look at the house price to income ratio, then in Taipei, the average ratio would be like 10. But in reality, I would say the ratio might be even higher in Taipei. It may be 20 or 30, so which means you literally cannot buy anything. I know, well, people have a concern about the very expensive housing price in Taiwan, but I would argue that actually the wages level, it's something that I think the government should do something to improve.
Now, if you look at kind of statistics for renting and buying a house in Taiwan, you see one of the biggest gaps in the world. It's actually fairly affordable to rent in Taiwan, but buying a house is just astronomically more expensive. Why is that the case?
Yeah, in Taiwan, usually we would say that the home ownership ratio in Taiwan is around 80 to 85%. But in reality, it's more like some people, they own 3 or 4 or 5 houses in Taiwan. So in Taiwan, the residential rental market is very favorable to landlords.
How can Taiwan fix its housing crisis?
I think the government should do more to take the efforts to provide more public housing to the Taiwanese people, just like in Singapore or in Hong Kong. We can see that in Singapore, the housing affordability is not really an issue because they know they can rent house or buy house from the government at a very reasonable price.
That was CBRE Taiwan's head of research, Ping Li, speaking with our reporter, Stash Butler. The videographer was Eason Chen. 4 parts of Taiwan are now officially classed as super-aged. That's according to statistics from the Interior Ministry. The UN defines a super-aged society as one where 20% or more of its population is older than 65. Taiwan's southern Chiayi County leads the way with more than 21% of its population over that age. It's followed by the capital, Taipei, central Nantou County and its neighbour Yunlin County. More than 17% of Taiwan's overall population is above the age of 65. Taiwan's National Development Council has for years predicted that Taiwan would become a super-age society by 2025. This is partly due to a falling birth rate and a rapidly aging population. But experts say that financial reasons are also play a part.
我觉得中南部出现的大部分都是人口外流。那台北市，特别是说买房很难，对年轻人来讲，他根本就没有立锥之地。
The president of Paraguay, Abdo Benítez, is leading a delegation to Taiwan for a 4-day trip. His country is one of Taiwan's few remaining diplomatic allies and the only one in South America. He was welcomed with military honor in Taipei. Bing Wang was there.
Here at the presidential palace, Taiwan is giving a military salute to the president of Paraguay, Abdo Benítez. The two countries have enjoyed close relations for the last 66 years. In fact, Paraguay is one of 14 diplomatic allies of Taiwan and the only one in South America. President Abdo Benítez arrived in Taiwan on Tuesday for a 4-day trip. It's his third time here as president. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen presided over the ceremony.
过去这几年，台湾和巴拉圭共同面对疫情的挑战，我们也期待借着这次的访问交流，两国持续加强合作，一起开创疫后经济的繁荣发展。
Abdo Benítez says he wishes to establish even closer ties with Taiwan before he steps down in August.
Considero que esta cercana colaboración es el secreto de nuestra relación sólida y duradera. Hoy en día nuestros países son mucho más que amigos, son socios y aliados estratégicos que comparten valores y la misma visión para lograr un mundo pacífico, democrático y sostenible, en el que todas las naciones gocen del derecho a vivir seguros, libres y con oportunidades.
The delegation will meet with other top Taiwanese officials on the 4-day trip to discuss work on bilateral projects. Taiwan will be following the presidential elections in April in Paraguay very closely, and that's because the opposition candidate has said that they will break off diplomatic ties with Taiwan in favor of China if he were to win. So for now, Taiwan will continue to build on relations with Paraguay. Alex Chen and Bing Wang in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
To find out more about the Paraguayan president's trip to Taiwan, our reporter James Chater spoke to Lai Yizong, president of the Prospect Foundation in Taipei.
Why are these types of visits important? Why does it matter that a head of state of one of Taiwan's diplomatic allies visits Taiwan?
I think due to Taiwan's very unique status and the limited number of the formal diplomatic relations that we have, so that the head of state like this visiting Taiwan is a big deal for Taiwan. Not only to remind us that we are an official and a normal state, and there are still other countries that have a formal relation with us.
It's been reported that the opposition candidate in Paraguay's presidential election will cut ties with Taiwan if he's elected in the country's presidential election in April. What impact would this have on Taiwan's international standing if it does happen?
I think the April election in Paraguay definitely is a very important political event, and it probably could have the implication not only for the Paraguay relation with Taiwan, but also the cross-strait relationship. That also means that we will have zero allies in South America. Cutting the ties altogether from South America, I think that sort of eliminates furthermore about our presence and our capability to conduct the relationship there.
Some Taiwanese people do criticize these relationships as being solely about money and as a relationship with countries that often don't have as strong a democracy. Why should Taiwanese people care about these diplomatic ties?
Should the number of the formal relations continue to decrease, just as the Chinese suppression or because of their own choices, like this time by the Paraguay opposition leaders, then not only Taiwan's formal international space will be squeezed furthermore, but also Taiwan's other formal engagement. Many of them is through those countries, whether like the voices, we want to voice out our concern through our formal diplomatic allies within the United Nations, and for other engagement in the international organization in which Taiwan is not a membership, we need to rely on our diplomatic allies. And so one less of those allies, one less of the venue and the vehicles that we can have to voice out our concern internationally.
That was James Chater speaking to Lai Yizong, the president of the Prospect Foundation. More investment firms have announced they have sold off shares in chip giant TSMC. The sell-off comes after US conglomerate Berkshire Hathaway said it had 86% of its stake in the Taiwanese company. American investment firm Tiger Global Management sold its entire stake in TSMC. That was 1.3 million shares, worth almost $120 million at their current value. JP Morgan and BlackRock also sold around 4 million TSMC shares each. The reason for Berkshire's sale is still not clear, but TSMC did forecast a decline in revenue for the first quarter of this year amid a slowdown in the global chip industry. Carrot yields have plummeted this year due to drought and cold snaps. With climate change impacting vegetable harvests, carrots could become more expensive as a result. Sally Jensen reports.
Busy packing up the produce. But this year, the carrot yield has been slim pickings. A piece of farmland like this should normally produce up to 9,500 kilograms of carrots per harvest. But recently, it's been half of that. This is largely because of the changes to the climate, which are affecting cultivation of the root vegetable.
这2-3年它价格一直不是很高，所以说造成我们做契约的，然后在市场上卖，它也是不赚钱，所以它整体产量，但是这2-3年是有在减。今年的温度它太剧烈，寒流连续的寒流，所以造成它的产量大概少了起码有2成到3成。
Many farmers planted their carrot seeds last September. But since then, Taiwan's southern area has experienced a record drought. Exacerbated by frequent cold snaps over the winter, these climatic changes have hit carrots hard. This reduction in yields may mean consumers will see higher prices.
所以说我们预估整个我们供给市场产量的部分大概会减少4成所以说今年的价格会比较提高一点点。
Carrots are not the only crop to have been affected by the harsher weather conditions impacting Taiwan. Cabbages and sweet potatoes are also in short supply. But as the planet heats up, these carrots may be stewing before they even reach the kitchen. Asnaya Zhou and Sally Jensen for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, we learn how cute puppies are teaching students about responsibility. Stay tuned.
I've finally been through all 18 levels of the underworld of the East. And I think what's so special, explaining to you what exactly the punishment is for every specific sin. In recent years, as people have become more and more aware of animal rights, it brings me great joy to know that they can come to somewhere like the Zhongyi Shijiugong Temple to pray for the well-being, happiness, and health of their furry friends. The St. Joseph Church here in Citong Township is more than a century old, and through its architecture, to its rituals, to even the incense, you can see just how good a job it does of blending two vastly different cultures and religions.
要好的鼓不简单啊，用好的体力去做，用生命去打一颗鼓。
会不会烧到我的手？
不会的。
好，继续哦，可以换气哦。So I just saw this great dragon walking over here. Looks like it's almost a guardian that's guarding this entire temple complex. The Taiwan Husheng Glass Temple so masterfully combines traditional Taiwanese religion and culture with glass craftsmanship. In addition to that, it's the only place in the world with a glass statue of Mazu. What a beautiful exchange of culture and tradition. Not only an example of how accepting the Taiwanese people are to all sorts of different cultures and religion. I think we could all use more accepting and more beautiful people in this world. So if there's one message that you're taking away from this, let it be that of peace and love.
Thanks for watching Taiwan Plus. For more great stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. China has sanctioned US defense contractors Lockheed Martin and Raytheon over arms sales to Taiwan. Beijing's move bans the two companies from import and export activities in the country. It also prevents further investment in China. Senior managers from the firms will have their work and residence permits in China cancelled. Beijing sanctioned the two companies last year over a $100 million arms sale to Taiwan. Taiwan's Navy is planning to build a specialized rescue ship for submarines. That's according to the Liberty Times. The newspaper says the ship would work with submarines in deep sea operations and would cost more than $330 million. It's unclear when it could enter service. Taiwan plans to build 8 submarines as part of its push to bolster its defense systems. The first is scheduled for delivery by 2025. The Navy already has 4 submarines in its fleet. 2 of those are decommissioned vessels from the US. Philippine defense officials say that the upcoming Balikatan military exercises with the United States will be the largest ever. The announcement was made during a press conference on Wednesday.
This will be a bigger exercise than the past year's Balikatan exercise, with the involvement of more troops. And the exercises will involve a myriad of activities, not just focused on developing the war-fighting capability of both armies or both armed forces, but also of the other non-traditional roles such as humanitarian assistance and disaster response, HADR.
The Balikatan drills are set to take place in late April and could involve more than 11,000 troops. The joint military war games will include amphibious landing operations as well as island hopping exercises. The announcement comes just a few weeks after the two countries signed agreements to share military bases. The UK has made plans for the potential economic fallout that would be caused by an invasion of Taiwan. That's according to a report by The Guardian. The exercises are reportedly due to concerns over potential disruptions to global supply chains if China attacks Taiwan. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has faced pressure from within his own governing Conservative Party for being soft on China. His predecessor, Liz Truss, is set to make a speech in Tokyo on Friday. She's speaking at a conference of Interparliamentary Alliance on China. Truss is expected to push Sunak to take a tougher stance toward Beijing. Back in Taiwan, Taiwan plans to make every city bus in the country run on electricity within the next 7 years. That's part of a push to hit net zero carbon emissions by 2050. But bus operators say the switch to battery power is trying to do too much, too fast. Stash Butler reports.
Another hazy day on Taiwan's roads. Emissions from cars, buses and motorbikes here are a big obstacle on the way to reaching net zero carbon. Transportation is responsible for about 13% of Taiwan's carbon emissions, the third biggest source behind industry and the energy sector. The government wants to cut that down by making all public buses run on electric batteries by 2030. But all those batteries will need recycling when they're spent. Authorities say they're confident they can meet the additional recycling demands.
我们最近也有业者申请啦，那我们预估还有3家业者在扩充量能当中啦，那在2025年左右，应该量能可以到达9000吨左右啦。
But recycling capacity is not the only issue. Bus operators say they're also worried about safety. That's after an electric bus caught fire in New Taipei last year for no apparent reason.
是提心吊胆，是非常的。 惶恐。我们国家推动电动公车，这个美意固然是很好，但是应该要放慢、放稳，求安全。
Operators like Li Jianwen also say it's a struggle to find the extra parking space to fit electric charging points, not to mention the cost of buying the buses themselves. Add to that a looming energy crunch as Taiwan winds down its nuclear power stations, and the country's electric bus revolution may be facing more than a few bumps in the road. Klein Wang and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
A factory in central Taiwan has won an award for being a welcoming workplace for people with disabilities. As John Van Trieste reports, nearly a third of the workers experience some form of disability, and all have an important role to play.
After many months of training, Mr. Xu is now a star employee at this paper factory. Mr. Xu has an intellectual disability that might have seen him turned away from other workplaces. But here, he is one of 6 staff members with some form of disability. That may not seem very many, but it's more than 30% of employees at this small paper company called Yin Khvat.
这边做5年，然后一开始都不会，然后慢慢学，学到了就是现在会了，然后有新人来我都会叫他。
The owners say the time and investment put into training disabled staff has more than paid off.
一开始是一定要加一寡时间互因啦，就因豆教安尼，嘿啊，啊若想像即马因伫阮遮拢住4、5档的啊。
Taiwan's labor ministry recently gave Yin Khvat an award recognizing its inclusive hiring practices.
员工在公司表现可圈可点证明我们身心障碍朋友有爱就无碍对企业的发展非常有帮助。
The ministry is encouraging more businesses to follow this papermaker's lead, working with career centers to set up apprenticeships for people with disabilities. It's hoped initiatives like these will help make Taiwan a place where all citizens can be part of an inclusive workplace. Alex Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
To reduce the number of strays in Taiwan, the government is subsidizing high school programs that teach students how to take care of animals. At the same time, students learn responsibility. Our reporter Jaime Ocon has more.
Since Taiwan implemented a no-kill policy in 2017, the number of stray animals has skyrocketed. Animal shelters are now stretched beyond capacity. To relieve their burden, the government is subsidizing programs that teach high school students how to look after the animals.
如果每一个学校来帮我养2只狗，那全国可能好几千间，这一个学校就可以疏解掉将近1万只的狗。
The strays brought in by the schools quickly become popular fixtures on campus. They've even taken over one of this high school's storage rooms, where the food and beverage service programs keep their tablecloths.
他都专门选这一区比较贵的这一区，因为那个选手他带出去有很多各种颜色的布巾，这种纯棉的他也爱啊。
This school has set up a club where members take turns caring for the animals. The club even offered courses for students on how to improve their relationship with the strays they've taken in.
在经过了我们的上课之后，我们去学习如何跟巧克力相处，也让他听得懂指令之后，就不会再有这样子的一个行为发生。巧克力等等，换手。
The training courses are aimed at helping both the animals and the students.
教育真正可贵的地方是我们是开放一个对话的可能，每一个人都有机会走进这个场域来感受跟体验，你去选择我喜不喜欢，我爱不爱。
Learning how to look after the strays provides students with important life skills, ones that someday can be applied not just to animals, but to other humans as well. Howard Zhang, Irene Wu, and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
Many animals in Australia are suffering from habitat loss, but one biologist has come up with a new way to make homes for these critters, and quickly. Eric Gao explains.
Getting ready for an open house. To humans, this just looks like a hollow piece of wood, and it is. But to many animal species in Australia, it's a potential home. These critters are facing habitat loss because of human development and natural disasters. To tackle the hollow housing issue, conservation biologist Matt Stevens has invented a device that can dig out new digs for these animals.
Naturally, a hollow will take the minimum of 70 to 120 years to start forming. And then, the fact that we can rapidly install one of these hollows within less than an hour is, a real game changer.
Stevens calls the device a hollow hog. He says it can quickly create a living space that grows along with the tree.
But over the years, that hollow will further develop. And so it will grow larger and larger. And as long as the living tissue of that tree can continue to wrap more layers around the outside and outpace the rate of that hollow's development, that tree will remain stable.
Creating artificial habitats for animals is nothing new, but normally it requires trees to be cut down or branches cut off. The hollow hog lets conservationists make homes for animals without destroying trees.
The very first time I ever got my hands on a hollow hog and actually started carving, it really filled me with hope that my career doesn't have to be all about cutting trees down, and that there is actually a potential there for me to do more environmental, have a more positive environmental impact than a negative one by cutting trees down for my entire career.
The hollow hog can quickly dig out a new home for animals, but this is no slapdash operation. These living spaces are meant to last.
And to think that then that hollow that we've created may last potentially 200 or 300 years into the future, and each year producing another generation of fauna.
The hollow hog is already being used across Australia, making thousands of hollows for animals to live in. Stevens hopes this will give animals homes for thousands of generations. Leon Lien and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Finally, we leave you with images of a heart-shaped woodland with thousands of oak trees in the UK. I'm Yin Khvat. Take care. See you next time.